3 sports psychology tips for beginners. So I'm at a local track here getting my workout in, and sometimes this may be you if you clicked on this video. You want to start working on the mental game. Coaches tell you you need to start working on the mental game. Teammates tell you got to start working on the mental game. But how do you actually start working on the mental game? So if you're a beginner trying to figure out the 6 inches between your ears, how it can affect you here, how it can affect you on these fields. There's a soccer field, there's a lacrosse field, they're playing soccer over there. There's softball fields near me, there's a practice football field. How do you master performance, or how do you master your psychology so that you can master your performances more consistently? Because the challenge is not being able to do it one time. If you can't do it one time, you need to go out and master the skill of actually doing it first. The mental side is about doing it more consistently, not beating yourself up. So the first tip for beginners, if you're just looking to start working on the mental side of the game, that I want to give you guys today. I mean, this is not an exhaustive list. This is not the end all be all list, but this is 3 really good places to start. So the first thing is that you have to consciously monitor the images that are going on inside your mind. What do I mean by that? So we're constantly running images of what could potentially happen in the future, positively or negatively. You probably heard of visualization. Visualization is a part of this. But you have to monitor the image in your mind to make them work for you, to be enabling, to constantly monitor it. Because it's not just about creating the image one time and saying, oh, I want to achieve this goal, but you don't do it on a consistent basis. It's about what's going on in your mind all the time. And if you have a negative image in your mind, it's being aware enough that you can take responsibility and that you can change it. And that's a much deeper training, but that's the first place to start. The image is in your mind. This video again is for beginners. The second tip for beginners is what works for one person does not necessarily mean it will work for you. Think of all of your teammates. Think of all of the people that you've trained with throughout your career. Doesn't matter if you're 12 years old, doesn't matter if you're 25 years old. Think of all the different types of players that you trained with, right? There's some players that are ultra competitive and just want to dominate, just want to win. There's the players that are constantly working on the fundamentals, really, really skill focused, right? They really place a lot of their energy on the technical aspects of the game. You have teammates that are really social, right? They get along with the coach, or they get along with other teammates really well. They know how to communicate very easily, very effectively. So there's all sorts of different types. What works for one person does not necessarily mean it will work for you. So you have to realize, and you have to say that just because this is working for them, it doesn't necessarily mean it's working for you. But the key is you have to test, and you have to experiment, and you have to experience. It can't just be a coach telling you this is what you have to do, and then all of a sudden it's like a magic cure. It's about being flexible enough to say, okay, I'm going to test this, I'm going to test this, I'm going to test this, and I'm going to figure out what works best for me. And this is a big problem with players that are really coachable. Maybe you think that you're a really coachable player. That's a good attribute. That's a good aspect to have. Because part of being coachable is taking the information the coach has and actually using it. But you have to find a balance. You have to figure out where that sweet spot is of taking that information, testing it, and using it for yourself, but also being flexible enough to be open-minded enough to receive information from more than one source. Because there's no one person that has everything mastered. There's no one person that has all of the secrets that you need. It's going to come from multiple sources. So part of being coachable is being able to balance what that particular coach is telling you and balance taking in information and figuring out what works best for you. The third aspect, the third tip for beginners, and I got to get back to my workout here. The sun's coming out. You can tell I'm sweating. It's humid out today. There's a lot of moisture on the ground, but I love it, man. I just love being out in nature. I love the fresh air. It's so much better than being in a gym. Not knocking gyms or anything, but it's so much more natural to be out in the elements and get your workout outside. So the third element, the third aspect that I want to share with you for beginners, this third tip for beginners, is monitoring your inner dialogue. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. Everyone has conversations with themselves. Some people are aware of the conversations. Most people aren't aware of the conversations that they're having. We're aware of the conversations that are going on outside of us, A lot of times we aren't aware of the conversations that are going on inside your mind, and it's happening all day long. Everything that you do, there's an inner dialogue. There's a conversation that you're having in your mind. Sometimes that inner dialogue really helps us. Sometimes that inner dialogue, tells us, oh, don't do that, don't do this, be scared of this, think about what happened last time. And it's constantly telling us what to do and what not to do. But there's different parts of your inner dialogue. Without getting too complex in this thing, there's different parts of you as a human being, right? You have the friendship part, the teammate part, you have the confident part, you have the depressed part. So it's not just about the different aspects of your life. And I want to keep this for beginners. It's about understanding that inner dialogue, that inner conversation is not always coming from the most confident version of yourself. You and I have both been there. You and I understand that you're not always the same person that you are. Sometimes you're friendly, sometimes you're nice, sometimes you're outgoing. And sometimes, let's admit it, sometimes we're pissed off, we're angry, we're frustrated, we're depressed, we're anxious. We all experience those emotions. Not to experience those means you're not human. But it's about how do you deal with those emotions, and that's part of mastering the mental side. And this is a video for beginners, but that inner dialogue, understand that it's constantly going on. Sometimes it's working for you, sometimes it's working against you. It's about monitoring it more consistently so that you don't fall victim of this negative side all of the time. You see, we're just human. The nature of us is to fall into those negative emotions and experience those things that we don't want, the fear, the doubt, the anxiety. It happens, just welcome to being human. But the point is, we don't have to stay in those emotions. Just because we're depressed for a couple of minutes doesn't mean we have to stay that way for days and weeks and months and so on and so forth. I was a victim of this myself when I was playing. I played baseball. I played at a Division I college here in the States. Some of my clients are overseas, so it's the top college level. I played at a small program, but I couldn't master that part of it. I would get stuck in emotions for a long period of time. Have you ever heard of a streaky player? Have you ever heard of a streaky athlete? That's one of the things that drove me to pursuing what I do, helping other athletes. Because I would go in these streaks where I was really good for a period of time. And I go on streaks, it seemed like they happened more than the good ones. I would go on streaks where I was just absolutely terrible. So I knew I could do it. I knew I could perform. I know I could, dominate the way I wanted to dominate, because I would do it for short periods of time. But then I would fall into these large, slumps, if you want to call the word slumps. And I always wanted to know why did it happen? And why do some people have really long slumps like I did, and some people can get out of it really quickly? Why can the best athletes like Mike Trout seem to show up to the ballpark every single day with a smile on his face and just go out there and play the way he plays, which is, one of the best players to ever play the game? That's a whole nother debate, and that's a whole nother conversation in itself. But there's 3 tips for beginners. So number 1, control the images in your mind. Quick recap here. Control the images in your mind on a consistent basis. Number 2, what works for one person does not necessarily mean it works for everyone. Be flexible, be willing to try other things and figure out what works best for you. And the third part of it is monitor that inner dialogue, change that inner dialogue, and use it on a consistent basis to help you out. Understand that you're going to experience emotions, but you don't have to get stuck in them. You can change them. So anyways, I hope you guys find this video useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, and let me know what you want me to talk about next. So appreciate you guys. My heart's with you. I'll see you in the next video. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I just want to let you know we're always uploading some new free resources on our website. So check them out in the description below. Find out which one is the best for you, and I hope to see you soon.